Congratulations, you've already failed the trolley problem. Actually, everyone always fails the trolley problem since there's no right or wrong solution. Just a warning here, this one is going to be a long video, but I promise you'll get a lot of intellectual stimulation by the end. The trolley problem seeks to discover whether you believe that the ends justify the means or not. The trolley problem is an ethical dilemma, a thought experiment in morality, if you will. The problem goes like this. A rogue, out-of-control train trolley is speeding down the tracks. Far ahead are 5 railroad workers who are busy and cannot see the trolley coming their way. You happen to watch from some control room somewhere far away, but you are unable to warn the 5 railroad workers of their impending doom. All you can do is watch them die. But alas, you see a lever that can divert the rogue runaway trolley onto another track. You can save them, but then you notice that there's one other railroad worker far ahead on the side track, and he's also busy and will surely be unable to see the runaway trolley coming at him if you decide to change the trolley's course. There are no other options and nothing else you can do. So your dilemma is this. 1. Do nothing and 5 people die. 2. Do something and 1 person dies. Most people tend to choose the second choice, which is pulling the lever and killing 1 person over not saving 5. For obvious numerical reasons, 5 is more than 1. But the wording I use here is important. I'll say it again. You prefer to kill 1 person to save 5 persons. Here, the opposite of killing 1 person is choosing not to save 5 people, which is not the same as killing them. If you do nothing, 5 people die, but you didn't kill them. If you act, 1 person dies, but you killed him. Those 5 people would have died whether you were there or not. That 1 person, though, would have lived had you not been there. There is no objective right or wrong answer to this, and we know that most people see human life as cold numbers and would easily just kill 1 person without asking him if he's okay with that, to save 5. However, we can make other variations to the dilemma and expand it further to experiment more with the morality of this dilemma. So let's say you're willing to let 1 person die. I mean, deliberately kill 1 person to save 5 without asking him for his consent to his sacrifice, and let's say you're okay with this. Now, let's change the thought experiment a bit to put consent in the mix. Let's say that you can slowly bring the trolley to a halt if you throw yourself at it early on in its track. So the person who gets to die now is you instead. Would you do it then? Would you sacrifice yourself to save 5 people you don't even know from certain death? Most people who said they'd go with the second option hesitate here. It's not easy now when the sacrificial lamb is you. Let's make another variation to the dilemma. Let's say there's again 5 people dying if you do nothing, and 1 other person dying if you do. What if that 1 person is a child and the other 5 are 90-year-olds? What if the 1 person is somebody working on a cure for cancer and the other 5 are complete morons? What if among the 5 is a child molester? What if the 1 person is a pregnant woman? What if the 1 person is someone who lives healthily and values health in life, but the 5 are sedentary chain-smoking alcoholics who don't value their own health nor life? Even worse, what if you don't know all these variables to help you choose? Let's change the dilemma a bit differently again. What if you can change the direction of the trolley, saving the 5 people, but this time you can't see if there's anyone on the sidetrack, but you know there will probably be between 1 and 30 people on it because it's, let's say, sidetrack maintenance day. So by acting, you could end up killing more people than not saving 5. You could try to save 5, but end up killing another set of 5 who could have otherwise lived. Are you okay with that? So let's change it again. What if that 1 person is a close friend or relative of yours? What if that 1 person is a pirate who promised to later give you a map of untold treasure? Would you do it then? Since you're deciding who lives and who dies, what if the trolley if left alone, would kill one person, but that person is your crush? Would you pull the lever to kill another person whose fate was not to die that day had you not been there? See how your thinking changes every time the script flips slightly? See how the cogs in your brain turn the other way each time? So why is that? I would theorize that this is because your decision making is circumstantial and is not based on firm guiding principles. Thing is, even if you know all about the people you could potentially save and kill, and we assume that you could judge, based on your criteria, which decision is the lesser evil for the general good of humanity, who are you to choose? It is not your responsibility nor your right to choose who lives or dies, especially when fate seems to have already decided. Sure, paramedics and first aiders do it all the time, but there's a subtle difference. When they have limited resources in an emergency, they are trained to attend first to those with the higher probability of survival to maximize their response's effectiveness. Ask any of them who's been in a situation like that, where they had to choose who lives or dies, and they'll probably tell you it was a horrible experience, unless they're a sociopath and did it without a second thought. But there is a crucial difference in the paramedic and first aid example. Let's say 2 paramedics and 2 first aiders arrive at a disaster site where 50 people are wounded, some slightly, some crucially. So 4 rescuers can't attend to them all in time, so they hierarchize. But this is not them killing someone to save someone else. If they do nothing, everybody probably will die. If they act, some of them will live. So acting has no cost at all, only benefit. So it's well within their rights, since they're only there to help without stepping on people, to choose who they help and who not to help. But it's definitely not within their rights to kill someone healthy, to harvest their organs and save multiple other people. This is why organ donation requires consent. And this is what it all boils down to. The trolley problem is this. Would you kill someone to harvest a heart, 2 kidneys, and 2 lungs to save 5 people with those organs? And if yes, who would you choose to euthanize? I hear many of you saying that you wouldn't mind killing a convicted serial killer to do this. But would you want a serial killer's organ in you, knowing that what saved your life was him and the murders he committed? Because had he not committed them, we would not be, let's say, justified to kill him and save you. Thing is, looking at life like a statistic is what Stalin did. And it's what our political leaders do.
When you kill one, it is a tragedy. When you kill 10 million, it is a statistic. They call me killer, but I live only to serve the people. And the people's history will judge me. Where the Romans failed, I will succeed.
I know what I would do. I would do nothing. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying how I think about it, because I want a principle to help me answer this question consistently for all scenarios without bias. And for that answer to be consistent with all scenarios, guided on principle and not arbitrary personal interests. Besides, I think the second option of choosing to kill someone will get you arrested despite having saved 5 people. But the first option of inaction probably won't, unless your job is railroad safety, in which case you already screwed up somewhere. The thing with life is that you choose to live it accepting the risks involved, without anyone there to save you. If you hadn't accepted the risk, you'd kill yourself and be 100% free of risk. You go about your day accepting that at any given point, you could die from something random that you couldn't anticipate, like a meteor falling on your head or your insane bitchy ex finding you, the one you changed your name and address to get away from. The same way, if you do nothing, 5 railroad workers die, but you didn't kill them, because had you not been there, they'd die anyway, and the other person would live. Random luck killed those people, not you. But if you decide to act and kill one person, you killed that person. You initiated the chain of events that killed him. You were the catalyst that killed him. You are directly responsible. And that railroad worker wasn't even given a say in it at all. If a random doctor came up to you and told you they needed to harvest your organs to save 5 people from dying, I bet you'd say no. Hell, if your organs would save 1 million people, you'd still probably say no. But here, whatever you choose, at least the choice is yours, not the doctor's. If you decide to kill one person to save 5, you may have good intent if you can quantify human life and reduce it to mere numbers, that is, but you ignore values involved like morality, voluntarism, consent, non-coercion, and other principles. Sure, you have good intent, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And every single historical occurrence of atrocity and act of deep evil was conducted under the premise of perceived and arbitrary presumptions of good intentions. Not acting in the trolley problem is the only choice that is consistent with the principle of voluntarism and non-aggression, simply because you have no right, no authority, and no competence to decide who lives and who dies, regardless of mere numbers. In the trolley example, we use numbers as a way to objectify the two options and make it easier to choose. But what if the choice isn't made just with numbers? What if the parameter by which you choose is something other than numbers? What if it's competence? What if it's gender? What if it's religion? What if it's skin color? What if it's race? What if it's IQ? See how easy it is to tumble down the slippery slope of elitism and eugenics and racism and authoritarianism and even genocide once we take it upon ourselves to choose who lives or dies based upon an arbitrary criterion. And the criterion here in the trolley problem is just quantity, just the number of lives saved. If you can choose who lives or dies depending on numbers, then you may well feel that you have the right to choose who lives and who dies based on other criteria too, like the ones mentioned earlier, like so many others in history felt they had the right to do. So my answer to the trolley problem is do nothing. It is not my choice to make. The 5 people took their chances by going out to work. So did the 1 person on the sidetrack. But luck and nature decided who would die, not me. You don't take one person's problem and make it someone else's problem, no matter how you quantify human life and reduce it to a mere statistic. For the naysayers, what is the reason that you choose to save 5 people anyway? It's because you value human life, right? But what's the point of telling yourself you value human life when you so arbitrarily decide to take a life for a perceived benefit, even if the benefit is saving other lives? I mean, you so easily took a life. So what's the value in saving a life? And what happens if you kill that 1 person and then you realize that the 5 people left the track by the time it killed that 1 person? Wouldn't that make you a murderer for nothing? What if the 5 people you saved did not appreciate you killing someone innocent to save them? Did you ask them if they were willing to take that 1 person's blood on their hands? It's a slippery slope, but our history is riddled with circumstances when an elite class in its perceived, presumed, and deluded superior wisdom decided to kill someone for the sake of others. From Aztec human sacrifice and Nazi Germany concentration camps to Soviet gulags and its slave trade, these are all examples of someone somewhere deciding that it's okay to sacrifice 1 or more human lives for the benefit of others' lives. It was once considered okay to burn women at the stake to get rid of disease because the experts at the time were so certain they had all the undisputed answers. What's the problem with the gulags? Ask Soviet apologists. They claim that some people sacrificed and died agonizing early deaths, but it was okay because so many millions benefited from their labor. Well, this is not at all moral. Sure, you can get to enslave and kill people if you have the power to force that, but you can't also call yourself moral. Saving 5 people by actively going out of your way to kill 1 or more doesn't mean you value human life in general. You're just grasping at straws to justify the means to your ends, and only some convenient lives matter to you, not all. It just means that you suspend at will your value for human life when it suits you and your moral exhibitionism. In the trolley problem example, this is expressed by you having the need to feel good about saving 5 people and by showing off to everyone that you know that 5 is greater than 1. If there were no cost, then maybe it could be immoral not to save the 5 people. I'll accept that. But when you have to choose between not saving and killing, then it means you actually went into the unethical process of measuring and weighing human life. And no one should ever have the authority to do this, ever. The trolley problem is just a thought experiment in morality, but it has real-world applications every day. For example, the greatest thing on everyone's mind right now is choosing whether an epidemic is a justification to harm or kill some people for the off chance of maybe saving other people. vaguely, and you don't even know for sure if you're saving more than you're harming. So let's say you have a serious pathogen that spreads like wildfire and has a 50% death rate, taking the role of the runaway trolley. What do? Do you close businesses, impose martial law, imprison innocent people, deprive them of their rights, and destroy their mental and physical well-being by forbidding assemblies, movement, entertainment, and working out? How about the poverty, depression, and suicide as a direct result of all these measures? And let's say that by the time the pathogen is gone, some people were harmed and killed because of the measures, but many more were assumed to be saved because of them. Is that still a moral thing to do? This one I think is even easier to answer than the trolley problem, because in this case, people know there is an epidemic out there, so they know the trolley is coming at them any minute. They know that it can hit them, and each person can decide to take appropriate measures when going outside, taking measures assuming that other people aren't taking measures. This way, they take full responsibility for their own health without expecting other people to damage their health for them and not even having a say in the matter. The equivalent of this in the trolley problem would be for each of the 5 railroad workers to know that a trolley is coming at them at some point, and they have an Iron Man suit they can put on at any given moment to maximize their safety. The only difference is that the one person on the sidetrack has no such luxury. And if you choose to safeguard the 5 people who can pretty much choose to take it upon themselves to safeguard their own health, and they don't, you then definitely kill one person without giving him a chance nor consent. Even worse, imagine these 5 railroad workers knowing there was danger, having those suits but refusing to wear them because they weren't comfortable. In other words, they can easily protect themselves, and they expect you to derail the trolley to save them rather than to take it upon themselves to protect their own health, each individually. They expect you to kill one person to save them when they're not even taking all available measures to safeguard their own health. Would you then so easily kill that one person? How moral is killing someone for any justification? If we can justify killing anyone for any reason at all, especially if we don't get their consent and if they're innocent, how much do we then value human life truly? Or even how much agency and responsibility do we take for our own life? Let's put a bit of context here. There are thousands of pop culture references of the principle of never killing an innocent, even if killing an innocent would supposedly save many lives. In Terminator 2, Sarah Connor attempts to kill a scientist in front of his family because she believes that killing him would stop the future nuclear apocalypse. In the end, she decides not to, and to risk and try to find a different way to solve the coming doom, because she understands that if she was to become as ruthless as the murderous machines she was fighting against, then there was no point in saving humanity, and humanity did not deserve to be saved. Notice how in the scene where she attempts to kill the guy, she looks and moves like the cold, senseless robot that was coming after her, essentially showing what she was becoming and how pointless it would be to save humanity if it stopped valuing life. Batman is another example. In most versions of Batman, his principle is to never kill. In the game of the year Batman Arkham City, he's faced with a dilemma: save the Joker from a deadly disease, or let him die and save any potential future victims of his. He decides to save him and to always try to stop him every time. This is because Batman is motivated by principle, and principles are what separate us from animals. If human life has value, it is because of our ability to hold principles over fleeting emotions and desires. By the way, wasn't that the whole point of the Injustice comic book series, where Superman snaps and starts executing a bunch of criminals by his standards, and imposes a sort of peaceful and safe dictatorship that has almost no crime, but no life either, and no point, because everyone's scared to live and speak out while walking on eggshells perpetually, terrified of their despot. Sure, a maximum security prison is probably the maximum security you can get in this world, but the moral of Batman, who fights evil Superman here, is that of abiding to a principle, in this case to never kill, and then give it your best to save people using other ways, not the easy way of killing others. Even if in the end this ends up causing more lives, which it doesn't, as things turn out. And even if the principle of not killing ended up with more casualties, and it doesn't, it is still the right course to take, because not abiding by the principle of respecting life makes the lives you save meaningless. Because the value of a life doesn't mean that much to you if you're willing to sell it out arbitrarily since you don't respect it universally and unconditionally. If you have to take a life to save a life, then life doesn't have value to you, and saving a life becomes meaningless. Now let's close this with the trolley problem adjusted to today's standard. What if by pulling the lever, there's a chance that the trolley will derail, drift, and kill all 6? What if the next time you are the one that must be sacrificed for maybe a 50% chance that your sacrifice might save 5, maybe, and everyone demands it without even asking you if you consent? Would you be so willing to die under those terms? But seriously, to sum it all up, the epidemic equivalent of the trolley problem is this. You have 5 railroad workers who were somehow convinced that it was the fault of the one person on the side track that the 5 could die, even though that's a stretch and a slippery slope. They somehow got the idea that the one person should be killed without his consent to save them, that it is his obligation to die to save them, because somehow by staying alive he's purposefully killing them. This is what they think, and they never pause to question this reasoning. The one person who is forcibly killed is perfectly healthy and with a lot of life in him, and the 5 forcibly saved are mostly morbidly ill with little life left in them. And to add insult to injury, the 5 don't even feel grateful to the involuntary sacrifice of the one, because they believe that it was his responsibility to die for them either way. How morally superior do they feel? If this whole epidemic thing taught me one thing, is that the ends never justify the means, because it's just a matter of time when you will be the one being sacrificed for a supposed benefit of the many. If we accept human sacrifice for one thing, then be sure it will happen for another thing when it's your turn to die. But hey, that's just me. Food for thought for the trolley problem. But in the spirit of no lives matter, I think the truth often comes from the innocence and wisdom of children.
Which way should the train go?